we will start the phasor diagram of the transformer with load. Now, what is called the phasor diagram of the transformer? But before we proceed the phasor diagram of the transformer with loaded condition, you need to know few basics of the phasor diagram. First of all, for the resistance only, when some AC sources is connected to the resistance, some AC current is flowed to the resistance, and in that time we know that there should not be any phase difference between the voltage across the resistance and the current through the resistance. So that's why you see this is the voltage across the resistance VR and this is the IR. So they fall in the same line. That means there should not be any phase difference between the voltage across the resistance and the current through the resistance. This is the phasor diagram, and in the waveform you see that there is no phase difference, meaning the voltage and current should start from the same point. They are again coming, as this is the AC, so it should be a sinusoidal. So voltage and current should start from the same point. They are again coming back to the zero to the same point. Again they are made zero in the same point, like this one. So when the voltage has maximum value, current also have the maximum value. So this is called no phase difference. Coming to the another one, purely inductive circuit. What will be the phase difference of the purely inductive circuit? Here, the voltage across the inductor VL should lead from the current to the inductor by an angle 90 degree for pure inductance. Okay, so you see that this is the IL axis and VL axis is placed in 90 degree anti-clockwise direction from IL, and 90 degree anti-clockwise means it is lagging. How much lagging? 90 degree. So in this figure, it is also clear. When the current is starting from the origin, you see voltage become maximum. So voltage is starting from here. So voltage is 90 degree leading from the current to the inductor. Coming to the pure capacitor, here you see the current through the capacitor IC should lead from the voltage across the capacitor PC by an angle 90 degree. And anti-clockwise position means it should leading. So here you see voltage is in that side and current is in this axis. So as the current is 90 degree anti-clockwise direction, so it's lead from the voltage across the capacitor by an angle 90 degree. So this thing you need to remember very carefully to understand the phasor diagram. Now how to remember that one? So for that the civil formula is there. Am I told you before that civil formula?
Yes, sir.
I think. So this civil means CIV is there. So C for the capacitance. So in case of capacitance, as I placed before V, so current through the capacitor leads the voltage across the capacitor by an angle 90 degree. And last three VIL is for the inductance, pure inductance. So in case of pure inductance, voltage across the inductance leads the current through the inductance by an angle 90 degree. That is for purity, means pure inductance and pure capacitance. But if we have a mixed circuit like the inductance and inductance capacitance mix, then what happened? So in case of inductance and resistance, if we mix the inductance and resistance, then what will be the angle? If we have a coil, so coil has a resistance as well as a reactance, means inductance. Pure inductance plus resistance is also there for a coil. So in that case, the voltage should lead the current, but the leading angle is not purely 0 degree, purely 90 degree. It should be between 0 to 90 degree. Or you may say the current lag from the voltage across the coil by an angle 0 to 90 degree, excluding these two values. Okay. Similarly, when case of mixed capacitor, means if a capacitor is mixed with a resistance, then the voltage across the capacitor lags from the current to the capacitor by an angle 0 to 90 degree, but not touching this value, not touching these limits. So these are the things you need to remember. Then we proceed for the phasor diagram of the transformer on load. Now, there are three types of phasor diagram in your syllabus. One is the phasor diagram of the transformer on inductive load, phasor diagram of the capacitor, phasor diagram of the transformer on resistive load, and phasor diagram of the transformer in capacitive load. So that means inductive load, resistive load, capacitive load, or you may say lagging load, leading load, unity power factor load. So you need to draw the phasor diagram all these three possible conditions. Now, before I start the phasor diagram, what are the things you need to remember? You need to remember the civil formula and the basic operation of the transformer. So this is the basic operation of the transformer. So coming to the secondary side, when the primary is energized, some flux will be circulating through the core. This is the main common flux which is linked both the primary as well as in the secondary circuits. And due to that one, as the flux is AC, some voltage is induced across the secondary winding. This is called E2. And if the load is connected, then some current is start flowing to the circuit, which is called I2. And the voltage across the load is V2 also. And in the secondary circuit, secondary winding, there should be some resistance, some reactance. Coming to the primary circuits, also there, if some voltage is induced, voltage is supplied to the primary circuit winding, then the current is start flowing. This current I1 is called the primary winding current. Has two parts. One is I0, another is I1 dash. This I0 is called the no load component of the current. Again, it has two parts. One is I mu, one is IW, and the I1, which is only circulating to the windings, and E1 is the voltage across the winding. Okay, N1, N2 are the two number of turns in the primary as in the secondary winding, and depending upon the N1 and N2, sometimes E1 is more than E2, sometimes E2 is more than E1. If N1 is higher than N2, then E1 is also higher than E2. But if N2 is higher than N1, then E2 will be higher compared to E1. Okay, so that's why we have two transformers. One is step up transformer, one is step down transformer. So based on that two voltage E1 and E2, sometimes we call it is a step up transformer when E2 is more compared to E1. When you call it step down transformer when is E2 is less than E1. So with this basic knowledge, let's start the transformer phasor diagram on reactive load. So many theories are there. If you're not able to understand that particular animations which I'll show to you, then so many theories are there in these notes, in this PPT, the notes, in internet, everywhere, in books, everywhere, the explanation is there. But if you see the animation, then it's very clear to you. Okay. So coming from this one, phasor diagram of the transformer on inductive load. So inductive load means it's a lagging power factor load. Okay, now what do you mean by lagging power factor load? Lagging power factor load means which one is lagging? What is the meaning of lagging power factor load? Anybody? Just what do you mean by lagging power factor load? Or what do you mean by lagging? Just by the term lagging. Which one is lagging? Anybody? This is the basic things. Basics of the AC fundamentals. What is called the lagging?
Sir, lagging means যদি ভোল্টেজ আর কারেন্ট তো ভোল্টেজ আগে স্টার্ট হলে আর কারেন্ট হচ্ছে ল্যাগিং সেক্ষেত্রে
very good. So that means among the voltage and current, if the current lag behind from voltage, then it is called lagging. And if the voltage is leads from the current, if the voltage is lagged from the current, then it is called leading. So that means based on the current start, either it is lagging or leading. If the current is start before the voltage, it is leading. If the current is start after the voltage, it is lagging. So now, in case of inductive load, the current is always lag from the voltage. That's why it is called a lagging power factor. Okay. So before I start the animation, I will show you something. Here, in every books, you will see the figure is looks like this one. Okay. This type of means the 95% books you see the lagging power factor transformer equivalent size, transformer phasor diagram is this one. Now to understand that one is little bit complicated, means from your first year knowledge. So that's why we do another thing, but we draw the same figure, but the figure is little bit oriented. So let's see the animation, then you'll see, then you understand everything, I hope. So we start from the V2. V2 is what? V2 is the secondary load voltage. Means some inductive load is connected across the secondary circuit and the voltage across the load is V2. Okay. Now, as it is called the inductive load or the lagging power factor load, so obviously the current lags from the voltage by an angle 0 to 90 degree, but not 0, not 90 degree. So that thing is, I think, clear to you. As it is not a purely inductive load, so that's why the voltage across the load and the current through the load should lag from the voltage by an angle between 0 to 90 degree. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So many steps are there. So one by one, understand every step, then ultimately the complicated figures is look very simple to you. Now, what is I2? I2 is what?
Current in the secondary.
Current in the secondary winding. Very, very good. Perfect answer. So this current is flowing not only to the load, but also to the secondary resistance and secondary reactance. Got it? Listen very carefully. Okay. So this current I2 is not only flowing to the load, but also the secondary resistance as well as in the secondary reactance. Okay. Now, if the I2 is flowing to the secondary resistance, then its voltage drop across the secondary resistance is I2 into R2, because R2 is the secondary resistance value. And from the phasor diagram, we know that for a resistance only, all are in the same phase. That's why I2 R2 is in the same phase, because these two things are parallel line. You see that two red lines, two red arrow is parallel. So that means there should not be any phase difference. Okay, it's not mandatory that all these times you should draw this voltage drop in the same line. It is not mandatory that if they are parallel, then the angle between them is also 0 degree. Okay. So this is the voltage drop across the secondary resistance I2 into. And coming to the inductive reactive part, the reactance of the secondary winding is X2. So voltage drop is J into I2 X2, because you see J term should be there. This is the inductive voltage, and this is leading from the current by an angle 90 degree. That's why you see that this line and that line has created an angle 90 degree, and this voltage drop across the inductor is leads from the current by an angle 90 degree. So that's why they should draw like this one. Now I just shift the axis from this point to that point. Okay. Now coming to this figure, what is this V2? V2 is the voltage drop across the load. I2 R2 is the voltage drop across the resistance. J I2 X2 is the voltage drop across the reactance. So if we just add these three voltages, then we get E2, because we know the induced voltage is the main voltage, main source of voltage in the secondary winding. So that's why E2 is nothing but the summation of the voltage drop across the resistance plus voltage drop across the reactance plus voltage drop across the load side, because no other components are there for taking the voltage. So that's why E2 equal to V2 plus I2 R2 plus I2 X2. Okay, and this is a phasor summation. That's why the phasor symbols are also there. Okay. Now up to this point, who have not understand this one. So this is the phasor diagram in the secondary side. Now coming to this one, when you derive the EMF equation of the transformer, we see that E1, E2 should fall in the same line. Okay. So that's why whatever be the direction of E2 in the same axis, E1 should be there, and they are lagged from the phi by an angle 90 degree. Okay, they are lagged from the phi by an angle 90 degree. Why? Because if you recall that one EMF equation of the transformer, so you see that this is the EMF equation of the transformer, and in that EMF equation, where it is, 1 minute please. So you see that this equal to EM sine omega t minus phi by 2. So that means as phi is reference, phi is equal to phi m sine omega t. So if you take phi as the reference, the two induced voltages lag from the phasor, lag from the flux by an angle pi by 2. As minus pi by 2 is there, so they are lagging from the phi by an angle pi by 2. So that's why if E1 and E2 are in that axis, then phi should be leading from that E1 and E2 axis by an angle 90 degrees. So this angle is 90 degrees. So between the green and yellow arrow, the angle is 90 degrees, and phi is leads from the two induced voltage E1 and E2 by an angle 90 degrees. These are the steps. One by way means in steps we are actually going for a complicated figure. Now, if we draw the phi, after that we need to find out the voltage across the applied voltage across the primary winding. So the applied voltage is not V1 because we supply the V1 at the input of the transformer. Now this V1 is not fully applied across the inductor, fully applied across the winding. So some voltages drop across the resistance, some voltages drop across the reactance, primary resistance, reactance. After that, whatever with the voltage we have, that voltage is purely applicable to the transformer winding. That's why it is not V1, rather it is V1 dash. Okay. So according to the Lenz law, the two voltages means induced voltage and applied voltage are same. But according to the Lenz law, there should be 90 degree, 180-degree phase difference between the two voltages, because Lenz's law says that the induced voltage should oppose the applied voltage. Meaning it should oppose in this direction, it will produce that it should oppose the current flow through it. Okay, so that's why whatever be the direction of E1, if we extend the line in the opposite direction, we will get the V1 dash. And V1 dash is nothing but the voltage across the primary winding, applied voltage across the primary winding. Okay, they are in the opposite direction. After we draw that one, we will able to get the IW. IW is the wattful component of the no load current, which is in the same phase of the applied voltage. I mu producing the phi. So that's why I mu and phi should be in the same axis. And if you take the summation of I mu and IW, we will get I0. This is the no load component of the current. Okay. After that, we need to find out the referred value. So this is the I2 dash. As we have just discussed in the morning, that I2 dash is nothing but the I2 by A, because that I2 is the secondary current. So if the secondary current is referred to the primary winding current, then it is divided by A. So I2 dash equal to I2 by A. So how to find out this one? We just need to extend in the opposite direction, because that current is also opposite in the direction. So, okay, and magnitude may not be same because they are divided by A. Okay, so according to the A, means A may be more than 1, less than 1, according to the number of turns. So that's why this line is maybe more than I2, maybe less than I2. So you just need to extend in the opposite direction to find out the values of I2. I2 is the winding current only. Okay, so I2 is the primary winding, I2 dash is the primary winding current, and I0 is the no load component of the current. If we take the summation of these two current, we will get the primary current I. So the primary winding current I, it has two components. One is the no load component of the current, and another is the winding current. So as I mentioned, if you don't have anything in the morning, you need to eat one biscuit only. This is nothing but the I0. But if you have any option for other foods, then you should eat the biscuits, but other food you should take, that is the I2 dash. Okay. So I0 should be there in all the time. If the transformer is energized, I0 should be there. If it is loaded, then apart from the I0, some another current will flow. This is nothing but the I2 dash. So the summation of their two currents is I1. I1 is the primary current. Now, once you are able to draw the I1, the rest of the part is very simple. We have two voltage drop across the resistance and reactance. First is the IER1. So IER1 is the voltage drop across the resistance of the primary winding. This is same phase with the I1. So this line and this line is same, means parallel. There should not be any phase difference. And the other is I1 J I1 X1. This is the inductive voltage drop across the reactance in the primary winding, and they are leading from the I1 by an angle 90 degree. So that's why they should be placed here. But we just shift the axis and place it here. Again, we have three voltages. One is V1 dash, voltage across the voltage across the winding only, voltage across the resistance, voltage across the reactance. If we take the summation of three voltages, we get the supply voltage V1. Because the supply voltage V1 distribute itself some portion across the resistance, some portion across the reactance, and the remaining portion should apply across the winding only. Okay, so in this way we get the value of V1, and the phase angle between the input voltage and the input current is the phi1. This is the power factor angle of the transformer. So this is called the phasor diagram of the transformer in inductive or lagging power factor load. Now you just look at the figure carefully, and if I show you that figure now, you see the two figures are exactly same, only the axis is shifted. Here here I draw the phi axis in this way, but if you just rotate the figure in the clockwise direction to make the phi axis in the x-axis, fall in the x-axis, then the then the figure like this. Okay. So in most of the books, you will find out the flux is like this one. They sometimes they start for the flux, but I find the convenience for the students if we find the if we start drawing the it means the phasor diagram of the transformer from the terminal voltage V2. So that's why I started with the terminal voltage V2. Now let me again quickly review of that thing. So this is the inductive or the lagging power factor load. Lagging power factor mode means at the load side, the current lags from the load voltage by an angle phi. Okay. So they are lagging. Current is lagging. Now this current is not only flowing to the load, they also flow to the resistance and reactance only, secondary resistance reactance only. And we know that for the resistance, there should not be any phase difference. So that's why they are parallel to each other. These two red lines are parallel to each other. And for the reactance, the voltage drop across the reactance is leads from the current to the reactance by 90 degree. So that's why this axis is 90 degree from that axis. Now, if we just take the summation, not the algebraic summation, phasor summation of the voltage across the resistance, voltage across the reactance, and voltage across the load, then we get the induced voltage E2. E2 and E1, primary induced voltage, should be fall in the same axis. Phi is the common flux, which is lead from the two induced voltage by an angle 90 degree. That's why this is the phi axis. After that, we need to find out the voltage, applied voltage across the winding only. This is nothing but the extension of E1 in the reverse direction, because E1 equal to minus V1 dash. And then in the same axis of V1 dash, IW should fall. In the phi axis, I mu should fall. And if we take the summation of I mu and IW, I0 should be there, which is called the no load component of the current. Then if you extend the I2, that means the secondary current, in the opposite direction, we get the I2 dash, which is the referred value, referred to the primary side. And if we just take the summation of I2 dash and I0, we'll get the primary current I1. I1 equal to this. Now, in the same axis of I1, the voltage drop should fall. So voltage drop across the primary resistance I1 R1 should fall in the same axis of I1. Voltage drop across the inductance in the primary circuit, sorry, the reactance in the primary circuit should be 90 degree leading from the primary circuit current I1, should, so that we place the IJ, I1, X1 in that axis. And if you take the summation of the resistance voltage drop, reactance voltage drop, and the voltage drop across the winding, then we get the supply voltage V1. Okay, this is the primary supply voltage, and the phase angle between the supply voltage and the primary current I1 is phi 1. Okay. So this is the phasor diagram of the transformer on inductive load. Okay. Same way. We have the load voltage, load current. So based on the characteristics of load, sometimes the current lags, sometimes the current leads, sometimes the current fall in the same axis. So first we need to draw these two things. Then once we are able to draw the I2, then we need to draw the voltage drop across the resistance, secondary reactance. Then we need to take the voltage drop across the resistance, reactance, and the load to find out the E2. E2 and E1 should be falling the same axis. Then we need to draw the phi. Then we need to extend the value of E1 in the opposite direction to get the values of V1 dash. IW should fall in the V1 dash. I mu should fall in the phi axis. If you take the summation of IW and I mu, you get the I0. Then we need to extend the value of I2 in the opposite direction to get the values of I1 dash, which is the referred value in the primary winding. If you take the summation of I0 and I2 dash, we get the I1. After that, the voltage drop across the resistance we need to find out. The voltage drop across the reactance we need to find out. Then the summation of this voltage means the voltage across the winding plus the voltage across the resistance, voltage across the reactance should be the value of V1. And angle between V1 and I1 is called the the phase difference of the transformer. Not the phase difference, the phase angle of the transformer. Okay. So that was the phasor diagram of the transformer at inductive load. Coming to the next part, what should be the phasor diagram of the transformer under unity power factor load? Now, what is called a unity power factor? Unity power factor means if we connect a pure resistance as the transformer load in the secondary circuit, then the voltage drop across the load and the current to the load should fall in the same axis because we connected pure resistance as a load. So this diagram is called the phasor diagram of the transformer under unity power factor load. So this is the figure. Here you see V2 and I2. First you forget all this figure and you see the V2 and I2 should be in the same axis because the load is resistive. So after that we need to find out the I2 value because as this I2 is not only flowing to the load but also the resistance and reactance. But as their phase difference is 0, so we should not get any reactive voltage drop. So we only get the resistive voltage drop, which is I2 R2. Then if you take the summation of V2 and I2 R2, we get the E2. E2 and E1 should fall in the same axis. The rest of the part is same. After we finding out the E1, E2, then we need to draw the phi in the 90-degree anti-clockwise direction axis because phi is leading from the E1 and E2 by an angle 90 degree. We need to extend the E1 in the opposite direction to find out the values of V1 dash. In the same axis, IW should be there. In the phi axis, I mu should be there. The summation of IW and I mu is I0. Then we need to extend the value of I2 in the opposite direction to find the values of I2 dash. And if you take the summation of I2 dash and I0, we'll get the I1. So once you get the values of I1, R1 should be in the same axis. J I1 X1 should lead from the primary current I1 by an angle 90 degree. And the voltage drop across the resistance, reactance, and the winding is called the primary supply voltage V1. And the angle between primary supply voltage and the supply current I1 is phi1. So that is the phasor diagram of the transformer under unity power factor load. Coming to the last one. This is the phasor diagram of the transformer under leading power factor load. So procedure is exactly same, only the first thing is changed. First thing is changed means how to plot the V2 and I2. That is the main thing. Okay, let's like this one. How we plot V2 and I2. For lagging power factor load, I2 should lag V2. For leading power factor load, I2 should lead V2. And for unity power factor load, I2 and V2 should fall in the same axis. This is the basic things you need to remember to draw the phasor diagram of the transformer under defined load condition, defined loaded condition. Okay. So as now we want to draw the phasor diagram of the transformer in capacitive load or the leading power factor load. So that's why you see the V2 and I2 is now leading from V2 by an angle phi or whatever be the angle, but the angle should not be 0 degree, should not be 90 degree because it's a mix of capacitor. So this is the first thing to draw the V2 and I2. Then other thing is same in the same axis of I2 in draw the I2 R2. Then you need to draw J I2X2, which is leads from I2 by an angle 90 degree. Then you need to draw the three voltages V2, I2 R2, and J I2X2 to find out the values of E2. E2 and E1 should fall in the same axis. In 90 degree axis, phi M should be there. After that, we need to extend the value of E1 in the opposite direction to get the values of V1 dash. In the same axis of V1 dash, IW should fall. In phi M axis, I mu should fall. The sum of IW and I mu is I0. Then we need to extend the value of I2 in the opposite direction to get the values of I2 dash, which is the referred value referred to the primary winding. Then the summation of I2 dash and I0 is I1. Then in the same axis of I1, we get the I1 R1. In 90 degree leading condition, we get the values of the J I1 X1. So this is the voltage drop across the inductor. This is the voltage drop across the resistance. And if we take the sum of phasor summation of the three voltages, means the primary resistance voltage, primary reactance voltage, and the voltage across the primary winding, we get the supply voltage V1. Okay, and the angle between V1 and I1 should be phi, the input phasor diagram phase angle of the transformer. So these are the things you need to remember. The rest, the steps are exactly same. Only the first step will change. For defined loaded condition, it may be leading power factor load like this one. It may be unity power factor load like this, or it may be lagging power factor load like this one. So in the exam, question may come, draw the phasor diagram of the transformer in some of the load condition mentioned in the question and mention the symbols used. So if the question is coming like that one, then you just need to draw the figure and you need to explain, or you not explain, you need to write all the symbols used in your drawing. That will give you the full marks. But if the question come like this one, you need to draw and explain the phasor diagram of the transformer in that particular load condition. Then you need to draw the figure. You need to mention all the symbols used in your figure, and you need to mention the steps also. Okay, whatever I am saying to you, just need to mention your steps. Steps are like this one, because you see in this theory so many steps are there. So these are not required to write in the exam because the time is short. So how to write, how to mention the steps? First, as it is a lagging power factor, so I2 should lag V2 by an angle, whatever be the angle. Okay, but I2 should lag from V2. Then I2 R2 should fall in the same axis. J I2 X2 should lead from I2 by an angle 90 degree. The summation of, if you just write that one, then it's sufficient, because examiner will understand that you know these things. The voltage, 3 voltages, addition of 3 voltages should give you the secondary induced voltage E2. After that, E1, E2 should be in the same line. Phi should be leads from B1 and E1 and E2 by an angle 90 degree. Then we need to extend the value of U1 in opposite direction to get the values of V1 dash, which is the primary applied voltage. Not only the primary applied voltage, primary winding applied voltage. Okay. Then in the same axis, IW should fall. In the phi axis, I mu should fall. The summation of their two things are I0, no load component of the current. We need to get the values of I2 dash, which is the referred value of secondary current to the primary circuit. Then the summation of these two, I2 dash and I0, gives you the values of I1. Then in the same axis of I1, R1 should be there. In 90 degree leading condition, the voltage of across the primary winding reactive voltage should be there. So it's equal to J I1 X1. It should lead 90 degree by the current I1. And the summation of these 3 voltages, again the applied voltage V1. Okay. So in this way, you need to draw this figure to get the marks. So in the next day, these 3 things are remaining. One is the transformer efficiency and condition for maximum efficiency, then the voltage regulation of the transformer. So now I think time is there to complete the efficiency of the transformer. Now what is called the efficiency of the transformer? Efficiency means in general definition of the efficiency, it is the ratio of output power by input power. Any electrical apparatus, if you want to find out the efficiency of the things, it is output power by input power. Okay. Suppose you have a motor, so you are supplying the motor by some electric energy or electric power. So how much energy it will consume, how much power it is consuming, and how much power it is giving to you. So the ratio between these two things is called the efficiency. Okay. And as the transformer is a complete static device, no rotational, no movement parts are there inside the transformer. So that's why for a well-designed new transformer, the efficiency can be as high as 99.99%. Okay, nowadays the designs are so good, so that's why the transformer efficiency is coming very close to 100%. Reason is that as there is no rotating parts, so no rotational losses are there, no friction losses are there, no windage losses are there. So all the rotational losses are gone in case of transformer because there is no rotational part. So that's why the transformer efficiency is very high, as very close to 100%. But for an old transformer, not well-designed transformer, due to the aging, the error may be there. So in that transformer, the efficiency may be 90 to 95%. So one suggestion is that in some of the numerical problem, if you get your transformer efficiency is coming 60% to 70%, your calculation definitely be wrong. because transformer, whatever be the transformer, the efficiency is always very close to, suppose not very close to, suppose in the range of say 85% to say 99%. So if it is coming below that one, some error should be there in your calculation. The main reason behind is that as there is no rotational parts in the transformer, so that's why the efficiency is very, very high. Now coming from the basic definition, the efficiency nu, it is generated by nu in this symbol. It is the ratio of output power by input power. And we know that input power equal to what? Input power is nothing but the output power plus the losses, everything. Okay, so this is again the universal definition of the input power. Input power is nothing but the output power plus losses. Because if you just, suppose you have a motor, you just give some input to the motor, you are not getting the same output. So obviously, why is the other output is there? So the input power is two part. One is the output power and the losses. Okay, so it supply the loss, it supply the output power. So output power is, input power is nothing but the summation of the output power plus losses. And in case of transformer, we know that two types of losses are there. One is called the copper loss, another is called the iron loss or core loss. So that's why in the second line it is written that output power by output power plus copper loss plus iron loss equal to the efficiency in per unit. So thus per unit efficiency at load current I2 and power factor phi cos phi2 is V2 I2 cos phi2. What is the V2 I2 cos phi2? V2 I2 cos phi2 is nothing but the output power, because the output voltage, you know, the load voltage is obviously V2, the load current is I2, and the power factor between the I2 V2 is cos phi2. So AC power formula is what? DC power formula is only V2 into I2, means the multiplication of voltage into current. But for the AC power, the power formula is not only VI but also VI cos phi. Okay, so that's it. The output power for the transformer secondary is V2 I2 cos phi2, and the input power equal to output plus losses. So what is the output power? Output power is remains same, V2 I2 cos phi2 plus the copper loss, which is the I square Re2, and iron loss is Pi. So this is variable loss. Copper loss is variable loss. It depends upon the current. So as the load consume more amount of current, the copper loss is also high. As the load consumes less amount of current, the copper loss is low, because it is totally dependent on the I square. So as I increases, the copper loss is also increases. As I decreases, copper loss is decreases. Now the core loss is constant. So as you see, no current terms is there, no voltage terms is there. So the core loss is a constant quantity. Whatever be the load condition, the core loss is same. And core loss is dependent upon nothing but this eddy current loss and the hysteresis loss. So that is the formula for the transformer efficiency. If you have the data, then just use the formula to get the transformer efficiencies per unit value. If you multiply the per unit value by 100, you get it in the percentage value. Okay. So V2 I2 cos phi2 by V2 I2 cos phi2 plus I2 Re2 plus Pi. Now another question I'm asking in the Viva time, that why this I square R loss? This is nothing but I square loss. You see, I square R, whatever be the R, it may be the equivalent resistance of the transformer at the primary or in the secondary side, but it is the loss, I square R loss, and iron loss, it is called the Pi. So why this I square R loss is called the copper loss? Why this loss is called the, why the core loss is called the iron loss? Okay. So I will definitely ask you that question in the Viva time. So think in the next day we will discuss about some numerical example, and this, why this thing is called the copper loss, why this thing is called the iron loss. We may call it the I square loss or the active power loss, because this is nothing but a power loss. I square loss means here at a power loss. So why this power loss is called the copper loss? Because copper is a name of the material, and iron is also the name of the material. We may call it the core loss. Why you call it the iron loss? Why you call it the copper loss? Okay, in the next day we will discuss all these things. And there is some another formulas are there. So first of all, condition for maximum efficiency, when the efficiency of the transformer becomes maximum. So steps are same in books, you will get the derivation. So how to find out the condition for maximum efficiency? What you need to do? We need to take the derivative, first derivative of that nu based on the I, and we make it 0 equal to 0, and from that we get the condition for the maximum efficiency. And the condition for maximum efficiency is when the variable copper loss I2 square Re2 is equal to the constant iron loss Pi, then only the efficiency of the transformer become maximum. So this is the condition for maximum efficiency. When the variable copper loss is become the constant iron loss, then only the maximum efficiency occurs in a transformer. The proof, how to prove it? We just need to take the first derivative of that nu based on the I2 current, and we need to equate to 0 to get the condition, and the condition is that is the condition. Now another formula for transformer efficiency equal to ms cos phi by ms cos phi plus pi plus m square pc. So what is this m, what is this s? Because if except the m and s, everything you know. So m equal to given load by full load. Okay, so means it's equal to pi by pc full load, root under pi by pc full load. Why pi is called the constant iron loss founded from the open circuit test coming later, and this pc is the variable copper loss. So this pc is depend upon the current, secondary current, and pi is constant iron loss. S is called the rated VA of the transformer. So we'll later coming what is called the rated VA, what is called the open circuit test of the transformer. But in this present moment, just remember this is another formula. Sometimes in the numerical example, the data are not coming to this one. Okay, the voltage, current, all these cos phi, they are not giving the data in this way. Rather, they are giving the data in that fashion. In that time, you need to use that formula to find out the efficiency of the transformer. So that's all for today's class. In the next class, we will again discuss very quickly we review the phasor diagram of the transformer, and we will do some numerical example based on this, finding out the efficiency, voltage regulation of the transformer, and lastly we do the transformer, auto transformer, and the three-phase transformer winding connection to complete that chapter. Okay. In the meantime, if you have any question, you may clarify at that one. Otherwise, you may leave for the next class. And we'll meet again at 3:45 in Basic Electrical Engineering Lab. The link will be same as I promised, but I'm not able to keep it because I promised that I will create another classroom and I will give you the official email ID for that one. But as in the last week, we have a international seminar we need to organize an international seminar in electrical engineering department. That's why I was busy in that time. So I'm not able to make all these things. So join in the same link, same basic electrical class for the practical. And today I need to discuss what will be the method for means accessing this even the practical as internal marks. But for the theory marks, it will be fixed. It will be in quiz mode. I will give you 10 questions. We need to answer the 10 questions in 1 hour time to get the internal assessment.
Sir,
And
87.
60?
87.
87 is present, okay.
Okay.
And within tonight, I think I'll able to know the procedure for the practical examination, and I will inform the CR.
Sir, is 83 present?
Yeah, 83, I think so. 83 is present. The absent only 63, 70, 84, and 98. These 4 students are absent, other than all the students are present. So see you.
Sir,
on 3:45. Huh?
রিটেন আমাদের থিওরিটিক্যাল পেপারে আমাদের 70 মার্কস তো রিটেন আর
Yeah.
আর বাকি ইন্টারনাল অ্যাসেসমেন্ট আর অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট সব মিলে টোটাল কত থাকবে মার্কস?
Total 30. So looks, previously, suppose few years back, the system was we need to conduct 2 class tests within 15, and we take the average or best whatever it is. So just let me stop the recording first.